I should stuff cotton wool in my mouth for this. Speak like Brando in The Godfather. But the latest arrival in the Beckham household, Harper Seven. Sounds like the start of a football result, doesn't it? Looks like she's going to have godparents fit for a princess.
Right.
There are rumours. I don't know if they're quantified or not, but David and Victoria might be going to ask the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge if they'd like to be godparents to Harper Seven. While some have claimed that this might just be a bit of a publicity stunt on behalf of the Beckhams, others point out it could be good practice for the royals. Have a nice high-profile kid to kick about, because at some point they're going to have bairns themselves. If that's...
That's what their plan is.
If that's the plan. What's it like to be a godparent in the 21st century? We are joined by journalist David Waters, who will test on how many godchildren he's got in just a minute. Good morning, David.
Good morning.
Thanks very much for joining us. And from the website GreatAunt.co.uk founder Lucy Pask. Hiya, Lucy.
Good morning, Fred. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you very much. Well, David and Lucy, here we are in the 21st century. There, you know, if you have a christening, then you may well have godparents. Some people go for different ceremonies these days. Humanists, for example, where the parents would be referred to as guide parents or support parents, which I think is...
Or in my case, a moral guardian.
David.
Isn't that nice?
Yeah, Nisi, now I think guide parent and support parent, there's a level of duty and care. Moral guardian.
Moral guardian,
That's
it's a
it.
pressure, isn't
It
it?
certainly is,
Gosh.
isn't it? Where do the parameters stop?
Yep. We want each of your godchilds and moral care children first names. How many have you got, David?
Well, I've officially got 4, but there's 2 in the offing, which I'm waiting for 2 more christenings, so I think there's going to be 2 more. So I think my grand total will be 6, but it could grow beyond that as well.
That's
I've got
enough.
plenty of friends who are talking about having kids.
Yeah, I think that's probably enough, don't you, Lucy?
Absolutely. Well, I've got 4 godchildren, but I have refused the honour twice as well. So if you wanted to include them as well, I suppose that's 6.
Wow, we're matching.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel
Nice.
kind
I've
of
never
hard
been
done
asked.
by.
That's say about me. Have you ever been asked, Fred?
Well, maybe I'm the sort of surrogate godfather. No, surrogate's probably the wrong word. Because Aileen's a godmum. Did
Right.
I become, by marriage, am I a godfather? I think you've actually got to be asked.
I don't think you do. I
Yeah.
think you
In
do
that-
have to be asked.
in that case,
you
no.
can't assume the responsibility.
I'm not a
just 'cause-
godfather.
No, you're
It's
not.
a
Open
terrific-
offers.
I have to say it's a terrific honour. I mean, I think it's a real accolade to be asked, because it's
Yeah.
saying that the parents feel, you know, because ostensibly the tradition is that if anything happened to the parents, you'd step in and take over the parenting role. So it's actually a huge responsibility if something tragic happened to the family. So, you know, I take my responsibilities quite seriously. I think I'm very touched and very honoured that these parents have asked me to have this role.
Likewise. It is one of the most genuine honours you can get as somebody part of the family. Yeah.
And neither Karen nor I have...
Upstanding
I think
members
it
of the
says what our
community.
friends and families think of us.
Not a lot.
That's right. Moral guardianship, I think not. Low moral fibre.
Well, I think I've been asked so often because I don't have children of my own,
Right.
and I think there's a real sense of he's got time on his hands.
Yes.
He can remember our kids' birthdays and take them out for the
He's
day.
got money to spend.
He's got a bit of disposable income, you know.
Oh, you're
he
so
can spoil our
cynical.
kids.
It's true.
Well, no, but I think this, you know, parents have to be realistic too. I think, you know, who they're going to give that responsibility to someone who's probably got the time to do it. I think a lot of godparents I know who've slightly slipped from that role at the moment they've become parents themselves.
Now, Lucy, can I ask, the technicalities? You must always, of course, remember birthdays and Christmas, and do you, and presumably the godchildren that you've got will have siblings, but do you treat the godchildren just a wee bit more specially?
Never. Although I think that there are some specific responsibilities of a godparent, and obviously one of them being that part of the reason you're being asked, particularly if it's specifically religious, I know we've talked about moral guardians, one of the reasons you're being asked is to help them spiritually and to help them find their faith. So in that respect, my godchildren do get slightly different gifts around Christmas time, and I ask slightly different questions of them. There's something David said that is absolutely spot on, is this idea that I don't have children myself yet either. And I think one of the main reasons that people ask you to be a godparent, apart from the moral guardian side of things, is also to bring you into the family. and to say you're important and you're a member of our family. And you know what, I forget birthdays. I'm terrible at remembering birthdays, and not so great at buying presents, which is part of the reason I set up my website. But actually one of the things that I do always do that I think is a big responsibility is I think about my godchildren and all my nieces and nephews very often, and ask the parents very regularly, how can I help? In exactly the same way as I would do my close family and friends.
Lucy, do you have children?
No.
Not yet,
Sorry,
no.
I beg your pardon, I didn't read.
But I was going to ask Lucy, how many of the godchildren are actually in the family that you'd be an aunt to anyway?
One by marriage,
Right.
but actually, no, the other three, no, they're very, very close friends. In fact, my very, very best friend in the world made me godmother to her two beautiful daughters. And that was really, I mean, the being there on the day actually reduced me to tears because it was such an honour to essentially be there. So no, you don't have to be part of the family. And I think it's interesting you talking about Victoria Beckham. I think, you know, from her perspective, she's almost run out of close family and friends. I mean, she's got her sisters and brothers and things, and I know that they're all godparents. So she's starting to look outside the family and bring people in. I think that's lovely.
I know, but she's gone right to the top
I
of
know.
the tree, though.
I
hasn't she?
know.
And I would imagine great presents from Will,
Yeah,
Wills and Kate,
yep.
you know.
More
Maybe not so
sinister
good on the
than-
babysitting duties.
Well,
That's true.
I mean, David Beckham does seem very comfortable when he's talking to HRH. There's no doubt about that. And of course, they were in the bid for the World Cup together.
Yes.
That's true.
We can only speculate how close Victoria and the Duchess are, but you know, it certainly wouldn't do any harm to have somebody in the royal family
It's
as
not
your
as crazy.
godfather.
It's not as crazy a decision as it might first seem. And I know cynically some people are like, oh, what a PR stunt. But actually, you know, David and William, I should imagine, are very close through their work. And Victoria Beckham, this is her first daughter. And really what she's doing here is she's putting out to the world as, you know, Catherine as a role model, you know, if this is true. And saying that this is somebody who I like her morals, I like the way she is. I think Victoria perhaps even sees a bit of herself in Catherine. And then you can say, this is someone who's going to encourage my child to be the best person they can be. And that's another important role of a 21st century godparent. You're there not just to help them spiritually, but to help them navigate through life. And if you think about, you know, the attention and the life that Catherine leads, I think that actually is perfect example
Can I
as
ask?
someone that can help.
Can I ask you both whether any of the children to whom you're a godparent have other godparents? Do you share the duties with anybody else? Because it's not unusual for kids to have one or two.
Yeah, one of my godchildren has got 4 godparents in total,
Right.
both godmothers and godfathers. I think the usual is to have one of each, to have a
Yes.
godmother and a godfather. So there are 2 people. Whether that's a couple or not is kind of secondary.
So what's that
Yes.
about then, having 2 of each?
It
It
actually depends.
I think the parents are just kind of shoring up every possibility
Aye.
and guaranteeing
case, just in
plenty
case.
of support
All
for,
right.
for little Nancy.
Well, here's an idea then, because Karen's got 2, one not in their 20s yet, the other one
2
in their
daughters, one 21, one 19.
Okay, I've got 3 and they're all in their 20s. Ours have got godparents, but maybe we could add another couple in. I'm
Mine
gonna
don't have
ask.
any godparents.
If the Beckhams are asking, I'm going to have a word with Will and Kate.
Why not? Go for it.
If you write it on my behalf, I'll
Ian
sign
here,
it.
he's 21 next month. It'd be ideal.
Present there, eh?
It's never
I have
too
to
late.
say one thing that's interesting for me is my oldest godson is now 18, and I actually feel my role has become more significant as he's become a young
I'll
adult
bet.
than actually when he was much younger. And I think, you know, that navigation between sort of childhood, teenage years into early adulthood is much more, you know, I feel myself stepping into a more significant role perhaps in his life than I was when he was much younger and he had more kind of parental support. So it changes over time, and actually for me that's quite exciting because I didn't quite expect that, but it's a thrill that it's happened that way.
Well, David has joined us this morning from London, and many thanks for doing that. He was down in our Western House studio. And Lucy, our listeners will be wondering why the sound was slightly different. You're speaking to us through Skype from the States.
Yes, I am.
Well, thank you very much. I guess it's very early in the morning or very late at night, depending on where
It's
you
very
are.
silly o'clock, yeah.
Okay. Lucy, many thanks for joining us. That's Lucy from GreatAunt.co.uk. It is exactly 11:15.
next Monday.
You want me to help?
No, it's okay.
Take your partners for fresh new comedy drama.
Toggles in your duffel coat are a wee bit tight.
It's not a duffel coat.
Well, let's get toggles and a hood. What is it then? Hook it up, boy! Tartan lining.
It's not a duffel coat.
John Gordon Sinclair returns as the hapless